is the square root of 5x minus 4 minus the square root of x plus 4 equals 6. So the first thing we want to do here is, it's asking us to solve. So the first thing we want to do is isolate the square root. This problem happens to have two of them, and so we need to get one on one side of the equal sign of the equation, and we'll put everything else on the other side. That will also help this negative. It's tricky and difficult to have a negative square root x, so if we move it to the other side of the equation, it'll then be a positive, and that'll help. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the square root of x, and we're going to subtract 4 from each side of the equation, and that's going to leave us with the square root of 5x minus 4 equals 2 plus the square root of x. Now remember that the way we get rid of a radical in an equation is that we have to, because this is the square root, we want to square it. If it was a cube root, we would want to cube it. So we want to square this side of the equation to get rid of that, of the radical. And we know that whatever we do to one side of the equation, we must do to the other. So we're going to go ahead and square this side as well. So the square root of 5x minus 4 squared is 5x minus 4. And then we have 2 plus the square root of x squared. Remember the way we'll solve this, that I'll just do this as a quick side note. Right. 2 plus the square root of x, multiply that by 2 plus the square root of x. When we do that, we get 4 plus 4 square root x plus x. Now our goal again is to get rid of the radical that we have, and so we're going to have to do exactly what we did here and isolate it on one side of the equation and then square it again to get rid of it. So now we're going to subtract 4 from both sides of the equation, and we're going to subtract x from both sides of the equation. And when we do that, we get 4x minus 8 equals the square root of 4 square root x. 4x minus 8 equals 4 square root x. Okay, so we've now isolated our radical on one side of the equation again. This time we're multiplying a 4 by that radical, so we want to make sure we divide both sides by 4, because whatever we do to one side of the equation, we must do to the other. So if we divide this by 4 and this by 4, we come up with square root of x. And this side is going to be 2x minus 2. It's going to be x minus 2, because we divide 4 into 4x, and that leaves us with x, and we divide 4 into negative 8, and that gives us negative 2. So we've now isolated the radical all by itself on this side of the equation, and of course whenever we get that taken care of, we then square root of x squared is going to be x. Whatever we do to one side of the equation, we must do to the other. So we have x minus 2 squared, so once again that'll look like this. And we'll FOIL that. And when we do that, we get x squared minus 4x plus 4. Okay, so now we have a quadratic equation. But the way we always want to set up a quadratic equation is to have it on one side of the equal sign and the other side of the equal sign needs to be 0. So we still have to subtract x from both sides here, so we get 0. So that's going to leave us with x squared minus 5x plus 4 equals 0. All right, now we need to factor our quadratic equation, and when we do, we get x minus 4 and x minus 1 equals 0. All right, I ran out of paper. So we're down to x minus 4 and x minus 1 equals 0. We remember that we always want to put that against 0, and that's how we solve for x. So x equals 4 and x equals 1. Now, we have two answers here, but it's very important for us to check those answers. So what we want to do is put 4 back in, plug it back into our original question and see if it comes out. I'm not going to do this work for you. Maybe I should. So when we do that, we get the square root of 5 times 4 minus 4 minus the square root of 4 plus 4 equals 6. So this is going to be 20 minus 4, that's 16. So we have the square root of 16 minus the square root of 4, so we know that's 2, plus 4 equals 6. Square root of 16 is 4, so 4 minus 2 plus 4 equals 6. And 4 minus 2 is 2, plus 4 is 6, so 6 equals 6. So when we plug our answer 4 back into our original equation, we do get an equal equation here, and that's our answer. So let's go ahead and check the 1. We can go 5 times 1 minus 4 minus the square root of 1 plus 4 equals 6. 5 times 1 is 5 minus 4 is 1, so we have the square root of 1 minus the square root of 1 plus 4 equals 6. We don't even have to worry about this because the square root of 1 minus the square root of 1 is going to be nothing, and we're left with 4 equals 6. So if we plug 1 back into our original equation, it does not equal. And so this couldn't possibly be one of our answers. So 1 is not our answer. But 4 is, because when we checked it, it came out. So the answer to our question is x equals 4. And that is the final answer.